Each archaeological find is thought to be another piece of a grand historical puzzle, meticulously placed. But this presumes a simple picture waiting to be assembled. The truth is far more unsettling. Our ancestors were not merely leaving behind records, they were crafting enigmas. From the silent depths of time, artifacts emerge that seem so technologically advanced, so profoundly out of place, they present a stark challenge to the very foundations of modern expertise. How did the ancient Egyptians, 5,000 years ago, manage to engineer a substance that emits radiation in the near infrared spectrum? And why do so many strange testaments to their genius exist, which we are still utterly unable to decipher? Consider a color. At first glance, it is simply a pigment. But within its chemical bonds, it holds a breathtaking secret. It is known as Egyptian blue, and it is considered the very first synthetic pigment ever created by humankind. Its origins trace back to the 3rd millennium before the Common Era, and its production demanded a staggering degree of specialized knowledge. From a purely chemical standpoint, it is a carefully calibrated mixture of silica, calcium, and copper. The Egyptians used it to grant a vibrant celestial sheen to their statues, their tomb paintings, and their sacred sarcophagi. But this was no ordinary color. The pigment is defined by an almost supernatural durability, retaining its brilliant hue even after thousands of years of exposure to the unforgiving desert sun. Yet its resilience is only the beginning of the mystery. The manufacturing process itself was an act of high science. The individual components had to be heated with extreme precision to temperatures between 850 and 1000 degrees Celsius and held there for several days. A minor deviation would result in failure. But it is a hidden property that continues to hold experts in a state of awe. Under spectroscopic analysis, scientists discovered a secret held for millennia. The pigment emits a powerful luminescence in the near-infrared spectrum. This quality, which we now harness to study the complex electronic processes within atoms and molecules, was born in the kilns of the Pharaohs. Today, this ancient color may one day be used for advanced communication, as its emitted rays are remarkably similar to the signals used by modern remote controls. Experts even speculate on its use in biomedical imaging, as its near-infrared light can penetrate human tissue more effectively than other wavelengths. This forces a profound question. Was this invisible property merely a fortunate accident of chemistry, or did the artisans of the Nile understand a scientific principle we are only now rediscovering? The past, it seems, is not a silent collection of relics. It is a resonant chamber, broadcasting signals across the ages, waiting for descendants advanced enough not just to look, but to finally see. In the stark, windswept highlands of the Altiplano, the ruins of Tiwanaku stand as a silent testament to a forgotten power. Even today, its giant, perfectly executed monoliths defy simple explanation. The sheer scale and precision are so overwhelming that one is tempted to believe that forces beyond human capability were at work. Consider the enigmatic H-blocks. Hewn from solid andesite, some stand precisely 1 meter in height, their surfaces and impossibly sharp interior angles appearing as if shaped not by hand, but by some form of advanced cutting technology, a process that feels unsettlingly modern. And then there is the legendary Gate of the Sun, a singular portal carved from a single block of stone. For decades, it has fueled the imagination of an alternative school of thought.
Welcome to my channel. If you're fascinated by hidden truths, lost civilizations, and unsolved mysteries, you're in the right place. Make sure to subscribe and leave a like so you don't miss what's coming next. Because what you're about to see will change everything.
Thought. The writer Erich von Däniken, for one, proposed that the central figure is no mystical deity, but a depiction of an extraterrestrial being, its helmeted head and strange instruments a record of an ancient encounter. But do we truly need beings from other worlds to explain the existence of Tiwanaku? Or must we instead confront the possibility that the abilities of ancient peoples have been profoundly underestimated? The question lingers, but the search for answers is frustrated by a tragic reality. Tiwanaku is one of the most thoroughly plundered and dismantled archaeological sites in all of South America. It is an undeniable fact that almost no stone rests in its original place, leaving us with a scattered puzzle, its most vital pieces lost forever to time and greed. From the high plains of the Andes, our journey takes us across the Pacific to a time of shoguns and samurai. The year is 1784. A Japanese farmer tending to an irrigation ditch on Shikanoshima Island feels his tool strike something hard in the mud. He unearths a small, heavy object, a glint of gold in the dark earth. He could not have known he had stumbled upon a designated national treasure of Japan. Experts now agree that this artifact, the gold seal of the King of Na, was cast not in Japan, but in the imperial workshops of Han Dynasty China. It is believed to have been bestowed upon a diplomatic envoy from Japan by the Chinese Emperor Guangwu, a formal recognition of statehood that occurred in the year 57 of the Common Era. Its significance is difficult to overstate. The intricate inscription on its base contains the first known textual reference to Japan as a country, a single object that marks the nation's emergence as a political entity on the world stage. It is all the more astonishing, then, that this profound symbol of sovereignty was apparently lost, forgotten for centuries. Its journey from an emperor's court to a farmer's field, a complete and utter mystery. But perhaps no artifact challenges our timeline of knowledge more profoundly than a controversial disc unearthed in Colombia. The fundamental secrets of life's creation, the union of sperm and ovum, the miraculous journey of an embryo, were mysteries to humanity until the invention of the microscope. Yet, an object discovered in the 1960s seems to tell a different story. Known as the genetic disc, this strange artifact, carved from dark lyddite stone and purportedly dating back 11,000 years, depicts the process of human reproduction with breathtaking accuracy. Etched into its surface are images that are unmistakably a sperm cell, an egg, and the stages of embryonic development inside the womb. Officially, the people of that era could not have possessed such microscopic knowledge. Does the disc then provide evidence that the medical science of our distant ancestors was vastly more sophisticated than is commonly believed? The answer depends entirely on whom you ask. While some celebrate the find as a significant out-of-place artifact, a testament to a lost high science, others dismiss it as nothing more than a clever modern forgery. No one knows for certain. The disc remains a weighted enigma. These are more than mere objects of stone and gold. They are echoes from a past we thought we knew. Whispers that suggest the linear story of human progress is a far more complex and fractured narrative. Each artifact is a question mark carved into history.
And now comes the part no one talks about. But this is where the real mystery begins.
Challenging our assumptions and reminding us that what has been forgotten may be just as important as what has been recorded. Upon the sun-drenched island of Crete, within the ruins of a Minoan palace, lies a spiral of silence. It is an enigma baked in clay, a message from the Bronze Age that has refused to speak for over a century. Known as the Phaistos disc, it is an object of profound and frustrating beauty. Forged from fired earth sometime in the second millennium before the Common Era, its surface is a tapestry of stamped symbols, a lexicon of pictograms arranged in a spiraling sequence. Here, a plumed head, there, a ship, a fish, a shield. 45 distinct signs, repeated in a mysterious order. Yet these images form a closed book. To modern scholarship, the disc is a ghost. It is a language with no known relatives, a script with no Rosetta Stone. Not a single comparable artifact has ever been unearthed, leaving cryptographers with no anchor, no point of reference from which to begin their work. To attempt a decipherment through trial and error is to face a computational Everest. The number of possible combinations is not merely vast, it is a figure that defied whose voice was lost to the winds of the Aegean. In the year 1897, a 14-year-old boy named Manuel Campello was working on a farm in Elche, Spain, when his spade struck something solid. What he unearthed would ignite a century of debate. It was the bust of a woman, her expression serene, her attire impossibly elaborate. Flanked by two enormous ornate coils covering her ears and adorned with intricate necklaces, she possessed a regal and timeless poise. Dubbed the Dama de Elche, or the Lady of Elche, the sculpture was so exquisitely detailed, so miraculously preserved, that its authenticity was immediately called into question. It seemed too perfect, a creation more suited to a 19th century salon than a 4th century Iberian field. Today, however, most experts concur. This is no forgery, but a breathtaking example of ancient Iberian art. Yet the Lady of Elche held another secret within her. Originally painted in vibrant colors, this life-sized bust was not merely a work of art, it was a vessel. A small cavity in its back revealed its true purpose. It was a funerary urn. In 2011, when the artifact was examined, traces of human ash were confirmed inside. The beautiful sculpture was a tomb. But the identity of the noble woman it portrays and the story of the person whose remains she guarded for millennia remain an unresolved historical mystery. She is a queen, a priestess, a goddess, and a silent guardian of a forgotten soul. Is the vessel green or is it red? The question is not a riddle, but a matter of physics and light. The Lycurgus cup, a Roman chalice from the 4th century, is a masterpiece of ancient alchemy. When light strikes it from the outside, it appears a soft, opaque jade green. But when illuminated from within, it undergoes a stunning transformation, glowing with the fiery, translucent light of a blood-red ruby. For centuries, it stood alone, the only known complete Roman artifact crafted from this strange dichroic glass. The knowledge of its creation, a technology of breathtaking sophistication, was seemingly lost with the fall of the empire. It would not be until the 17th century that glassmakers, through painstaking experimentation, began to rediscover the technique. The secret, revealed only by modern science, lies in the realm of nanotechnology. Roman artisans had somehow infused the molten glass with impossibly small particles, nanoparticles, of gold and silver. The precise size and distribution of these metals dictate how the glass interacts with light, scattering it as green or allowing it to pass through as red. The ultimate question, however, is one of intent. Did the Roman craftsmen know exactly what they were doing, meticulously engineering this astonishing effect? Or was this marvel an accident of the furnace, a stroke of pure serendipity that created a singular treasure never to be repeated? What at first appears to be the ghost of an ancient fairground, a line of colossal skeletal wheels looming over the Orontes River in Syria, is in fact a functioning piece of ancient engineering. These are the Norias of Hama. For at least 700 years, these immense wooden water wheels have turned, their groaning timbers and rhythmic splash composing the city's unique percussive heartbeat. Each wheel, some reaching over 20 meters in diameter.
And now comes the part no one talks about. But this is where the real mystery begins.
Scoops water from the river into its wooden boxes, lifting it high into the air to be deposited into aqueducts that have irrigated the city's gardens and supplied its homes for centuries. They're not relics in a museum, they are living, breathing machines, a bridge of sound and motion connecting the medieval world to our own. These artifacts, a silent disc, a stoic urn, a chameleon cup, a singing wheel, are more than mere objects. They are dialogues across time, posing questions we may never answer. They remind us that the past is not a static collection of facts, but a landscape of profound mystery, of lost genius, and of accidental beauty. They stand as monuments not only to what our ancestors knew, but to the vast, humbling ocean of all that we have forgotten. Along the banks of the Orontes River, in the heart of modern-day Syria, stand colossal monuments to a forgotten age. They are the Norias of Hama, giant water wheels that turn with the slow, groaning wisdom of centuries. Their history is as deep and winding as the river they draw from. Some accounts suggest their conceptual origins trace back to a decree from 469 BCE, a staggering claim when one considers that the triumph of the water wheel as a widespread technology would not truly begin for many hundreds of years. The identity of their first architects, the source of the very idea, is lost to us. We are left only with the enduring structures themselves. The oldest of the surviving wheels date to the 11th and 12th centuries of our era, their wooden frames weathered by a millennium of sun and water. In the year 1361, the largest of them all was constructed, a magnificent wheel stretching 27 meters in diameter, a testament to an engineering prowess that feels both ancient and profoundly advanced. Even today, in an age of electric pumps and modern irrigation, some of these giants continue their timeless work, lifting water to the city's aqueducts, their rhythmic complaint a constant echo of a world that has otherwise vanished. They turn not as relics, but as living history, their purpose slowly fading, yet their presence an undeniable link to an enigmatic past. While the secrets of the Norias were lost to the slow decay of memory, other enigmas were deliberately concealed, locked away on silent pages. Within the vaults of Yale University's Beinecke Library lies a medieval document of profound mystery, the Voynich manuscript. It is a book written in a language that no one on Earth can read. For centuries, the world's most brilliant cryptographers and linguists have stared into its cryptic passages, and all have been defeated. We cannot say with certainty who wrote it, or when, or why. We cannot even be sure if its elegant, flowing script conveys any meaning at all. All we have to guide us are the strange and beautiful illustrations that adorn its vellum pages. They depict unearthly plants that match no known botanical species, celestial charts of unrecognizable constellations, and anatomical drawings of human figures immersed in bizarre, interconnected plumbing. These images hint at a work of immense knowledge, a codex of botany, astronomy, and anatomy. Yet, without the key to its language, it remains a tantalizing but impenetrable wall. Is it the last surviving text of a lost civilization? A complex cipher created by a forgotten genius? Or the most elaborate and beautiful hoax ever perpetrated? The manuscript offers no answers, only a silent, maddening challenge. But not all ancient secrets were silent. Some were designed to be heard, to scream across the battlefield in a terrifying chorus of psychological warfare. On Burnswork Hill, near the modern town of Lockerbie in Scotland, archaeologists uncovered the remnants of a bloody 2nd century clash between the invading Roman legions and the defiant tribes of ancient Caledonia. Here they found something small yet ingenious in its cruelty. Roman sling bullets carved from stone. But these were no ordinary projectiles. Each was drilled with a precise, wide hole. This design served 2 terrifying persons upon impact, but its primary function was far more insidious. When hurled from a sling, these small stones became instruments of fear, emitting an intense, piercing whistle as they tore through the air. Imagine the scene. Hundreds of these projectiles launched in a single volley, creating a demonic shriek that descended upon the tribal warriors. It was the sound of unseen death, a weapon that attacked the mind long before it struck the body. For the Celtic tribesmen, it must have seemed as though the very air had turned against them, a terrifying prelude to the disciplined violence of the Roman lines. This mastery of fear, however, pales in comparison to the Byzantine Empire's ultimate weapon, a substance so horrific.
Stay with me, because what comes next has been hidden for a very long time, and only a few people know the truth behind it.
Its very name became a legend. Picture a naval battle upon the wine-dark sea. Your fleet closes on the Byzantine ships, but as you approach, they revstance that clings to wood, sail, and flesh. The sea itself offers no salvation. In fact, some accounts claim that this terrifying concoction would only ignite upon contact with water. It was unquenchable. Known to a horrified world as Greek fire, this incendiary weapon was a state secret of the highest order, its formula guarded more closely than any treasure. The sight of it alone was often enough to break an enemy fleet, to send sailors into a panic as their ships were consumed by an inferno that defied all logic. It was not merely a weapon, it was the embodiment of divine wrath, a tool of absolute destruction that secured the Byzantine Empire's naval supremacy for centuries. The precise formula, the knowledge to create and control this liquid nightmare has dissolved into the past, leaving us to wonder at the terrifying ingenuity our ancestors possessed, and to be grateful, perhaps, that some secrets remain forever buried. Among the most formidable secrets of the Byzantine Empire was a weapon born of fire and shadow, an alchemical terror known as Greek fire. We have no precise record of its creation, no surviving formula. The recipe was a state secret of the highest order, a piece of knowledge so valuable that to divulge it was to invite certain death. For centuries, this liquid flame was the ultimate naval deterrent, a stream of fire that could not be extinguished by water, that clung to the hulls of enemy ships and the bodies of their sailors, turning the sea itself into an inferno. Armies and navies who faced this terrifying weapon were left broken and bewildered. On occasion, the devices used to project the fire were captured, their bronze siphons and mechanisms studied with intense desperation. Yet no rival power, no captured engineer could ever replicate the substance itself. The secret was not in the machine, but in the volatile concoction it delivered. And so, when the walls of Constantinople finally fell, and the last embers of the empire were extinguished, the knowledge of how to brew this flaming death was lost with it. The formula vanished from the world, a testament to humanity's capacity for brilliant, terrifying creation, a power perhaps best left to the annals of history. While one form of fire was lost to time, another was destined to ignite a revolution. The hiss of steam, the turning of gears, the rhythmic pulse of the piston. This was the sound of the 19th century, the engine that powered the modern age. It found its purpose in the clatter of textile mills, and the infernal glow of steel foundries. In the year 1835, it gave birth to the first public railway, shrinking the world and binding nations together with ribbons of iron. But the true genesis of this world-altering power lies not in the soot-stained workshops of the 18th century, but in the sun-drenched halls of antiquity. In 1st century Alexandria lived a man named Hero, a mind so far ahead of its time he could be considered the Da Vinci of the ancient world. His inventions were the stuff of wonder. He conceived of a repeating crossbow, a mechanical archer capable of unleashing a volley of arrows far faster than any human. He designed temple doors that opened automatically, not by magic, but by harnessing the subtle power of heated air and water displacement. He even gifted the world its first coin-operated machine, a device that, upon receiving a bronze coin, would dispense not a snack, but a measure of holy water. Yet among these marvels was one whose true
Most people stop watching right here. But if you continue, you'll discover something almost
significance its creator never grasped. Hero constructed the first prototype of a steam engine, an elegant device he called an eolipile. A hollow sphere was mounted on an axis. When water inside was boiled, jets of steam would erupt from two small bent nozzles, forcing the sphere to spin at great speed. Hero and his contemporaries saw it as a curiosity, a temple marvel, a clever toy to demonstrate the properties of air and steam. They never made the conceptual leap to connect that rotational force to a drive shaft, to use that power to do work. And so, the potential lay dormant. It would take nearly 2 millennia for humanity to rediscover the secret hidden within that simple spinning sphere, and finally unleash its full, world-shaping potential. From secrets lost to time, we turn to secrets deliberately kept, buried deep within the deserts of the American Southwest. The story of Robert Scott Lazar exists on the razor's edge between groundbreaking revelation and elaborate fiction. In the late 1980s, Lazar, a promising physicist, received a strange and compelling job offer. The salary was exceptional. The work was classified. The promise was of a challenge beyond any conventional research. He was brought to a clandestine facility known as Sector 4, nestled near the infamous Area 51. There, Lazar alleges, he was tasked with the ultimate scientific project, reverse engineering technology not of this world. He testified to working on captured extraterrestrial craft powered by systems that defied all known laws of physics. At the heart of this research, he claimed, was a stable isotope of an element with the atomic number 115, a substance that served as the fuel source for a gravity propulsion system. After his time at the facility, Lazar emerged from the shadows, becoming a whistleblower, sharing incredible knowledge he believed humanity had a right to know. His account of alien technology and of a truth held in the deepest vaults of government secrecy forces a profound and unsettling question. Is our understanding of the universe incomplete, and are the truths being kept from us a necessary shield against a reality we are not ready for, or the ultimate betrayal of our collective quest for knowledge? The sole condition was absolute, unbreakable silence. On this premise, the physicist Robert Lazar agreed, and in doing so, stepped from the known world into a clandestine working group deep within the Nevada desert, a stone's throw from the infamous Area 51. Here, in laboratories equipped with technology beyond the public imagination, his new life began. His task was singular: to work with a new type of element, a substance that did not appear on any known periodic table. At first, Lazar was given only a sliver of the truth. His superiors in the military hoped his research would unlock a revolutionary propulsion technology, a way to move through air and space that defied conventional physics. It was only after a period of intense compartmentalized work that the full, staggering scope of the project was revealed to him. The material he was studying, element 115, was something he had never encountered in any scientific literature. Its origin, they told him, was not of this earth.
Welcome to my channel. If you're fascinated by hidden truths, lost civilizations, and unsolved mysteries, you're in the right place. Make sure to subscribe and leave a like so you don't miss what's coming next. Because what you're about to see will change everything.
The military had extracted it from the wreckage of crashed flying saucers. Between truth and fabrication, a new reality was taking shape. From 1988 to 1989, Lazar's world was Sector 4, a hidden facility near the salt flats of Groom Lake. There, he worked directly with a substance believed to be the power source for non-terrestrial flying objects. During this time, the foundations of his scientific worldview would be shaken to their core. One evening, he witnessed it with his own eyes, a flying disc hovering silently against the desert sky. It was a seamless, impossible object. Its surface was strangely fluid, polished not by human hands, but by an unknown process, shimmering as if both liquid and solid metal at once. Among the engineers and scientists who worked on the craft at Sector 4, this particular vehicle had a nickname, the Sport Model. But to study the craft itself was not his purpose. His world was to be far smaller, focused on the very heart of the machine. The mission of his department was exclusively the research and attempted replication of element 115. His colleague spoke of 8 other distinct types of alien craft, all collected by the military at Sector 4, all part of a monolithic effort in reverse engineering. The practical implication was earth-shattering, that the American military has long been aware of unidentified aerial phenomena, that it is in possession of their crashed vehicles, and that deep within its most secret laboratories, it is working to master their technology for its own use. While for the public the official narrative remains unchanged, officially there are no aliens. There are no authentic spaceships. Lazar had always described himself as a sober, rational scientist, a man who had never believed in UFOs. But what he saw at Sector 4 forced a profound re-evaluation of reality itself. He was eventually granted access inside the Sport Model. He had Glee Organic. The control systems were not composed of the buttons, levers, and lights familiar to our own aircraft. Instead, a panel held only a few subtle indentations. It was impossible for a human pilot or technician to discern how the object was controlled. There was no visible source of power or illumination, no cables, no plugs, no conduits for energy. The only artifacts recovered from within the craft that offered any clue to its function were the reactors and the enigmatic element 115. The question was never just about the physical properties of this exotic matter. It was about the nature of a truth so profound it could either liberate humanity or shatter its reality forever. For some secrets, the greatest danger lies not in their power, but simply in their existence. Imagine an offer delivered not in a boardroom, but in a shadowy corridor of national security. A position of immense prestige, with compensation to match. You are shown things that defy belief, gleaming, seamless vessels of an origin not of this world. Then, you are handed a set of formulas, the cryptic keys to a new physics centered on a single, impossible element. An element, they tell you, that powers these very craft. Your task is deceptively simple. Understand it. Unravel its fundamental nature, how it works, and most critically, how it can be replicated. This was the world presented to Robert Lazar, a world he would inhabit for more than a year. But the labyrinth of discovery proved far more elusive than he could have ever anticipated. The research yielded more questions than answers, circling a single tantalizing fact. Element 115, as it was known, possessed the ability to nullify the most fundamental force we know: gravity. Suddenly, decades of inexplicable sightings began to make a terrifying kind of sense. The silent, hovering craft, the objects that performed a ballet of impossible accelerations and instantaneous stops, all moving in blatant defiance of Newtonian physics. This technology would explain how a vessel could traverse the unfathomable voids between stars as if they were mere city blocks. He who can command gravity can rewrite the very contract between matter and the universe. To grasp the scale of such a breakthrough, picture an amusement park where gravity is not a constant but a switch. Imagine a roller coaster, its cars and passengers suddenly liberated from the tyranny of their own tracks, floating in a state of suspended animation before gliding through imagined loops and spirals, guided only by the subtlest shifts in momentum. Picture a water slide where you do not plummet, but are encased within a colossal, shimmering sphere of water, dancing and spinning in mid-air. It would be a world remade, a playground of the gods. With this concept, we inch closer to understanding the rumored interface of these otherworldly craft. Without the crushing weight of gravity, perhaps a vessel that is itself a form of living organic technology could be piloted not by crude levers and dials, but through a symbiotic union of mind and machine, a simple touch of the hand, a focused thought. But as the wonder bloomed, so too did a chilling realization. What happens when this power, the ability to command the fabric of reality, falls into the hands of a single nation, into the hands of the American military or any clandestine agency operating in the shadows? It would grant them a position of unassailable supremacy, a strategic advantage so profound it would render all other forms of conflict obsolete. It was this thought that ignited a crisis of conscience in Lazar. He could not reconcile the world-altering potential of this knowledge with the suffocating secrecy that surrounded it. Why was this not being shared with humanity? The only answer he could find was rooted in the oldest of human failings, the calculated pursuit of power, the instinct for control and manipulation. After 1 year, his moral compass could no longer bear the weight. He walked away from the project.
Welcome to my channel. If you're fascinated by hidden truths, lost civilizations, and unsolved mysteries, you're in the right place. Make sure to subscribe and leave a like so you don't miss what's coming next. Because what you're about to see will change everything.
Lazar's claims of folding space and time using element 115, of generating gravitational fields and temporal distortions, echo a concept that has migrated from the pages of science fiction into the most advanced laboratories on Earth: the warp drive. What began as a narrative device for interstellar television has become a subject of intense scientific inquiry. Dozens of research groups across the globe are working to crack the code, to build a functioning warp drive. So far, they have all been met with failure. Yet the theory stands firm. In the 1990s, the Mexican mathematician Miguel Alcubierre proved that such a drive is, in principle, mathematically possible. The problem is not one of theory, but of titanic, almost unimaginable energy. Alcubierre's model requires a power source we cannot yet conceive of, a fuel capable of bending space-time around a ship, contracting the universe ahead of it and expanding it behind, allowing the vessel to ride a wave through a wrinkle in reality itself. Countless other scientists have since refined the concepts, but time and again, they collide with the same insurmountable wall, the energy problem. We have the map, but no way to fuel the journey. The equations exist, whispering of a future among the stars, but our hands remain empty. The universe, it seems, has unlocked its door, but we are still searching for the key, caught in the vast expanse between our ambition and our ability. For generations, humanity has gazed at the stars, bound to its terrestrial cradle by the unyielding laws of physics. The chasm between worlds seemed insurmountable. But not long ago, a theoretical key emerged from the fringes of science, a concept built around a substance known as exotic matter. At its heart was a hypothetical isotope, element 115. If such an element could indeed be stabilized, if it could truly annul the force of gravity itself, the very problem of energy would cease to exist. All that would remain is the challenge of navigation, of harnessing this power to step across the void. We would, in a single bound, become an interstellar species. And then a man emerged from the shadows of the Nevada desert, claiming not only that this element was real, but that he had worked with it. His name was Robert Scott Lazar. After his departure from a clandestine project deep within the military's most secret installation.
And now comes the part no one talks about. But this is where the real mystery begins.
Lazar stepped onto the circuit of ufology congresses. There he found a community of kindly from public view, a reality he claimed to have witnessed with his own eyes. But Lazar's emergence did not go unnoticed. An invisible apparatus of surveillance seemed to track his every move. After he began to speak openly, a series of inexplicable and unsettling events began to unfold around the periphery of his life. A clear message from the world he had left behind. When Lazar published his own papers on the subject, the scientific establishment and its adjacent powers descended with ferocious intent. He was branded a charlatan, a fraud. The accusation was simple and devastating. He was never a physicist at all. When he produced his university diplomas as proof, they were dismissed as forgeries. Then the erasure began. His records vanished from the archives of every school, every university, every scientific institution he had ever attended. It was as if a ghost had meticulously walked back through his life, wiping the slate clean, attempting to render him a man who never was. Faced with threats of physical violence, Lazar made a calculated decision. His only shield was the public eye. To protect himself, he had to become famous. For years, he was a fixture at conventions, a recurring face on late-night television, telling his story again and again. Yet the more he spoke, the more vicious the character assassinations became. He was implicated in a sordid brothel scandal. The tragic suicide of his first wife was twisted and laid at his feet. The man who claimed to hold the secrets of alien technology was methodically reduced to a dubious, unreliable figure. His credibility shattered piece by piece until little remained. Today, Lazar lives a quiet life, running a commercial enterprise in the southern United States, a man who has largely withdrawn from the world that once consumed him. One might be tempted to dismiss his entire saga as a work of elaborate fiction, too fantastical to be believed. Yet the story does not end there. In the year 2003, a team of researchers did in fact succeed in artificially synthesizing element 115 in a laboratory. It was named moscovium, a fleeting, unstable echo of the substance Lazar described. And then there are the objects themselves. The descriptions Lazar provided decades ago of silent, disc-shaped craft and hovering spheres bear an uncanny resemblance to the unidentified aerial phenomena reported with increasing frequency today. Many of the craft, seen in footage leaked from military sources and now officially declassified, move in ways that openly defy our known laws of physics. They are identical to the machines Lazar claims to have seen in photographs presented by his superiors at the clandestine site known as Sector 4. Observers consistently catalogue 8 to 9 distinct types of these objects, a detail that aligns with Lazar's own testimony. The story of Bob Lazar thus leaves us suspended between two impossible truths. Was he a brilliant fabulist who constructed an enduring modern myth? Or was he a man who glimpsed a future so profound that the system had no choice but to unmake him? The answer remains elusive, hidden somewhere between the silent testimony of a man erased from history and the inexplicable lights that continue to dance across our skies, indifferent to our disbelief. In the known universe of elements, it is called Moscovian, element 115, a phantom created in the heart of a particle accelerator only to decay into oblivion in a fraction of a second. It is a scientific curiosity, a fleeting testament to humanity's ability to forge new matter, however unstable. But in the shadowed lore of clandestine research, another version of this element is said to exist. A stable isotope central to the controversial testimony of physicist Bob Lazar. According to his account, this alien artifact is a substance of almost unimaginable power. A mere 230 grams of this material, he claimed, could fuel an interstellar craft for years, perhaps decades. Lazar's alleged research paints a picture of physics far beyond our own. Within the core of a reactor, this stable element 115 was supposedly bombarded with protons. The result was a transmutation, forcing it to become the even heavier element 116, Livermorian. This act of atomic alchemy was not merely for show. It was the engine, unleashing a cascade of phenomena that defy conventional understanding. The process is said to generate a propagation of anti-gravity waves, a controlled stream of antimatter, and an extraordinary release of thermal energy, all harnessed by a trio of gravitational amplifiers. The craft he described does not traverse space, it commands it. It generates its own profound gravitational field, a bubble of influence that warps the very fabric of space-time. The vessel does not fly through space, but rather pulls its destination towards it, contracting the distance. In this mode of locomotion, the familiar metrics of distance, velocity, and acceleration simply cease to verse together. Any journey across any gulf of stars becomes possible. For the occupants, the experience would be utterly alien to our own astronauts. The paradoxes of relativity, where time slows to a crawl at immense speeds, would not manifest. The relentless decay of the human body in zero gravity, a constant risk for our spacefarers, would be a non-issue. Time inside the craft would pass normally, unaffected by the cosmic distances being crossed. If such a technology were in our hands, used for peaceful exploration, the consequences are staggering. We could journey to every conceivable corner of the cosmos. We would almost certainly encounter other forms of life, other intelligences. This raises a profound and unsettling
Welcome to my channel. If you're fascinated by hidden truths, lost civilizations, and unsolved
question. If such beings exist, and they possess this capacity to navigate the universe at will, why the silence? Why have they not made open contact? The speculative answers are as fascinating as they are chilling. Some theorize that not all extraterrestrial species are benevolent. Others suggest a more humbling reason, that they intentionally avoid us, viewing our civilization as too primitive, too volatile to be formally engaged. This notion that we are a nascent civilization observed from afar finds an echo not in the future, but in the deep past. For millennia, the great pyramids of Egypt have stood as monuments of stone and silence, defying the perceived limits of ancient engineering. 2,000 years ago, Roman visitors gazed upon them with the same awe we feel today, wondering how mere muscle and human will could raise such colossal structures. The Great Pyramid of Giza was, and remains, an undisputed wonder of the ancient world. For decades, a fringe theory has offered a simple yet radical explanation. They were not the work of man at all. But as the sands of time shift, so too does our understanding. Modern archaeology, though still grappling with the sheer scale of the achievement, has begun to uncover the secrets of the Pharaohs' architects. While many mysteries remain unsolved, the evidence increasingly points not to alien intervention, but to a level of human ingenuity and organization far more sophisticated than we ever imagined. The greatest enigmas, it seems, are not only those hidden among the stars, but those buried within the bedrock of our own history, waiting for the tools or the perspective to finally be understood. The scale of the endeavor defies modern comprehension. We now understand that the Great Pyramids of Egypt were not the product of some lost esoteric technology, but of a force far more potent, the coordinated will of a civilization. Upon the Giza Plis inundation, tens of thousands of laborers, a meticulously organized society of quarrymen, haulers, and master builders worked in
Welcome to my channel. If you're fascinated by hidden truths, lost civilizations, and unsolved mysteries.
The true engine of their creation was not a single secret, but the staggering power of human multitude. In the distant quarries of Tura and Aswan, a percussive symphony echoed for generations. Thousands of stonemasons toiled under a relentless sun, their task monumental. They did not possess steel, yet they cleaved mountains. Using hard dolerite pounders, they painstakingly chipped away at the living rock, outlining colossal blocks of limestone and granite. To make the final separation, they would carve small fissures, drive in wooden wedges, and soak them with water. The slow, inexorable expansion of the wood would exert an irresistible pressure, cracking a multi-ton block from its ancient bedrock. A single one of these stones could take months of such grueling labor to liberate. Yet this was more than just brute force. It was a science of logistics and a deep understanding of the cosmos. We now know the precise orientation of these silent giants was no accident. The Great Pyramid of Khufu is aligned to true north, with a degree of accuracy that modern engineering would struggle to replicate. Its shafts, once thought to be for ventilation, point with uncanny precision towards specific constellations, celestial pathways for the pharaoh's soul. Others were built as immense solar clocks, their shadows marking the solstices and equinoxes, tying the eternal monuments of the dead to the life-giving cycles of the heavens. Their transport was a feat of its own, made possible by the river Nile. In that era, its course ran much closer to the pyramid fields, its annual floodwaters creating a vast, navigable highway that allowed barges, laden with stone, to deliver their cargo almost to the foot of the construction sites. For decades, this cycle of quarrying, transporting, and lifting continued, a testament to a society that could bend the very landscape to its will. From the sands of Egypt, we sail to the turbulent waters of the Byzantine Mediterranean, where another ancient mystery burned with a terrifying light. For centuries, the city of Constantinople stood as the bastion of a beleaguered empire, its survival often credited to a weapon born of secret knowledge: Greek fire. Around the year 670, Byzantine engineers mounted strange siphons and nozzles onto the prows of their warships. From these devices erupted a stream of liquid flame that could not be extinguished by water. It clung to the wood of enemy ships, to the flesh of their sailors, turning naval battles into scenes of infernal horror. While flaming arrows and pots of oil were common tools of siegecraft, this was something else entirely. This was a weapon of shock and awe, the machine gun of its age, capable of turning the tide of entire wars. The formula was the most jealously guarded state secret in the Byzantine Empire, its knowledge said to have been brought from Egypt by a refugee named Kallinikos. It granted the Byzantines a decisive, almost supernatural advantage over their Arab and Rus adversaries. Accounts Ninth is well documented, not a single confirmed sample has ever been found. The ancient texts are maddeningly vague, leaving its composition a subject of intense debate. Was it a volatile mixture of naphtha, quicklime, and sulfur? Or a guarded formula involving saltpeter, resin, and phosphates? The puzzle remains. How engineers of that time, without the benefit of modern chemistry or refined propellants, managed to create and weaponize such a stable yet devastating incendiary is a marvel of forgotten ingenuity. While the secret of Greek fire was lost to the flames of history, another ancient formula was built to last for eternity. In Rome, we walk among ghosts of concrete. The Pantheon, with its magnificent unsupported dome, and the Colosseum, which has weathered earthquakes and the pillaging of centuries, stand as proof. They were built with opus cementitium, a Roman concrete that possessed a miraculous quality. It grew stronger with time. Modern concrete, by contrast, cracks, corrodes, and eventually fails. The Romans, however, had discovered a key ingredient in the volcanic ash, or pozzolana, abundant in their region. When mixed with lime and water, this ash created a uniquely powerful mortar. But its true genius was revealed in marine environments. When exposed to seawater, a chemical reaction would begin, forming a rare interlocking crystalline structure known as known, their molecular bonds strengthening over the millennia. They perfected a material that not only resisted the elements, but harnessed them to achieve a form of engineered immortality. From the celestial alignment of stone to the chemistry of liquid fire to the concrete that outlasts empires. These achievements are more than historical curiosities. They are echoes of a different way of thinking, a challenge to our own era's technological pride. They remind us that the arc of knowledge is not always a straight line, and that true wisdom can be buried not just by sand and sea, but by time itself. Across the European continent, some of history's most magnificent structures stand as silent testaments to an empire that has long since turned to dust. One of the enduring enigmas of Roman architecture, a riddle that has perplexed engineers for centuries, is how these buildings have weathered the relentless march of time with so few signs of decay. The answer lies not in the design, but in the very material from which they were born. For the concrete that forms the heart of these ancient edifices is, according to modern analysis, in many ways superior to the materials we employ today. The secret was a unique alchemy of the earth, a recipe perfected in the volcanic landscapes surrounding Rome. It was a humble mixture of volcanic ash, what they called pozzolana, quicklime, and seawater. When combined, these elements initiated a remarkable chemical reaction. The seawater, interacting with the ash and lime, allowed for the growth of rare, interlocking mineral crystals that filled any microscopic voids. This gave Roman concrete a phenomenal property, one that astonishes scientists even now. It does not merely resist cracking, it actively heals itself. This meant the material could be used for feats of structural audacity previously unimaginable, such as the breathtaking unreinforced dome of the Pantheon. For nearly 2,000 years, its grand oculus has opened to the heavens, a testament to a lost art. The builders of that era had not simply found a construction.
And now comes the part no one talks about. But this is where Welcome to my channel. If you're fascinated by hidden truths, lost civilizations, and unsolved mysteries.
Across the European continent, some of history's most magnificent structures stand as silent testaments to an empire that has long since turned to dust. One of the enduring enigmas of Roman architecture, a riddle that has perplexed engineers for centuries, is how these buildings have weathered the relentless march of time with so few signs of decay. The answer lies not in the design, but in the very material from which they were born. For the concrete that forms the heart of these ancient edifices is, according to modern analysis, in many ways superior to the materials we employ today. The secret was a unique alchemy of the earth, a recipe perfected in the volcanic landscapes surrounding Rome. It was a humble mixture of volcanic ash, what they called pozzolana, quicklime, and seawater. When combined, these elements initiated a remarkable chemical reaction. The seawater, interacting with the ash and lime, allowed for the growth of rare, interlocking mineral crystals that filled any microscopic voids. This gave Roman concrete a phenomenal property, one that astonishes scientists even now. It does not merely resist cracking, it actively heals itself. This meant the material could be used for feats of structural audacity previously unimaginable, such as the breathtaking, unreinforced dome of the Pantheon. For nearly 2,000 years, its grand oculus has opened to the heavens, a testament to a lost art. The builders of that era had not simply found a construction material, they had engineered a geological process, creating a compound that would last for an eternity, becoming a true cornerstone of the eternal city. While Rome built to defy the ages, another empire, half a world away, sought to comprehend the very forces that could bring cities to ruin. Until the Middle Ages, the terrifying tremor of an earthquake was almost universally interpreted as the wrath of the gods, not the logical consequence of tectonic plates shifting deep within the earth. The fear was primal, for these cataclysms could obliterate even the most advanced cities in an instant. It was in this world of divine uncertainty that, more than 2 millennia ago in Han Dynasty China, a mind of profound genius developed a device to observe and measure these terrestrial movements. It was the world's first seismoscope, an instrument that would allow scholars to create their own meticulous records of seismic events, logging them in the famed chronicles of the Chinese dynasties. The mathematician and astronomer Zhang Heng conceived of an ornate bronze vessel encircled by 8 dragon heads, each marking a cardinal or intercardinal direction. Below each dragon, a bronze toad sat with its mouth agape. Inside the vessel, a carefully balanced pendulum remained poised. When the earth trembled, the pendulum would swing, triggering a mechanism that caused one of the dragons to release a bronze ball from its jaws. The ball would fall into the mouth of the toad below with a clear metallic clang, indicating not only that a tremor had occurred, but the precise direction of its origin. When modern scientists recreated this ancient device, they were stunned. It was not merely a conceptual marvel, it was incredibly precise, capable of detecting earthquakes hundreds of miles away with an accuracy that rivals some contemporary technologies. It was a monumental shift in perception, the transformation of divine anger into a measurable, predictable force of nature. But the quest for knowledge was not limited to predicting disaster. In the intellectual crucible of the ancient world, it was also bent toward creating wonder. The automatic door is a ubiquitous feature of our modern landscape, a convenience we encounter everywhere from supermarkets to transport hubs. Yet this innovation is not a product of the 20th century. The ancient Greeks, it seems, first devised a system to open and close massive doors without the touch of a human hand. In the vibrant city of Alexandria, within the sacred walls of a temple, the mathematician and inventor Heron is believed to have engineered a spectacle of divine mechanics. The system was a masterpiece of hidden ingenuity, powered by the temple's altar fire. When the fire was lit, the heat would cause the air inside a sealed chamber beneath it to expand.
Wait, this is not the full story. The most important part is just beginning, and it changes everything we thought we knew.
This expanding air would push water from one container into another, a suspended bucket. As the bucket filled and grew heavy, its weight would pull on a series of ropes and pulleys, causing the temple's enormous doors to swing open as if by an unseen, godly force. It was not built for convenience, but for awe, a piece of theatrical engineering designed to inspire faith and demonstrate the power of the gods. From concrete that mends its own wounds, to a machine that charts the earth's shudders, to doors that open by fire and water, these ancient innovations reveal a profound truth. They are not mere historical curiosities, but echoes of a timeless human impulse, the drive to understand the world, to shape it, and to imbue it with a sense of order and wonder. They are the enduring legacy of minds that saw not the limits of their time, but the limitless possibilities of human ingenuity. In the crucible of ancient knowledge, Alexandria, a fire is lit upon a sacred altar. As the flames climb, a spectacle unfolds. Slowly, without human touch, the colossal bronze doors of the temple begin to part, swinging open as if moved by an unseen divine will. To the assembled pilgrims, it is a miracle, a clear sign that the gods themselves are welcoming them. But the force at work is not supernatural. It is the genius of Heron of Alexandria, a master of pneumatics and mechanics. Beneath the temple floor, a hidden system of pipes and vessels responds to the altar's heat. The expanding air forces water from one container into another, a simple bucket that, now heavy, acts as a counterweight, pulling on a series of ropes and pulleys to orchestrate this silent, awe-inspiring performance. It was an illusion engineered to fortify faith, a fusion of science and religion where technology served as the handmaiden of the divine. Heron's records reveal this was no mere temple trick. The same principles of hydraulic power were later scaled up, animating the great city gates of Alexandria itself, a metropolis that stood as the intellectual capital of the ancient world. Centuries later, the battlefields of the 20th century would be defined by the roar and tread of the armored tank, a machine that became the arbiter of victory and defeat in 2 world wars. Yet the genesis of this armored behemoth lies not in the industrial forges of the modern era, but in the restless mind of a Renaissance master. In the year 1487, Leonardo da Vinci, in a letter to his patron, the Duke of Milan Ludovico Sforza, proposed a design for an armored fighting vehicle. His drawings depict a Konikon by the muscular effort of 8 men turning cranks. It was conceived as the ultimate weapon of war, an instrument of shock and terror, capable of breaking enemy lines and protecting its occupants from harm. But it is almost certain that this revolutionary machine was never built. Modern analysis and replica constructions have yielded wildly different results, revealing potential flaws. The sheer weight would have made it a ponderous beast, easily mired in the mud of a Renaissance battlefield. Its power source was fallible human strength, yet to dismiss it as a failure is to miss its true significance. It was a conceptual leap, a weapon of psychological warfare whose power lay more in its intimidating presence than its practical application. The idea alone was a fortress, a testament to a vision that saw the future of warfare 500 years before it would arrive. The Industrial Revolution, a turning point in human history, was built upon the power of steam. The piston and the turbine remade the world, liberating humanity from the limitations of muscle and wind. But here again, the seed of this world-altering idea was planted nearly 2,000 years earlier, in the very same mind that made temple doors move. Heron of Alexandria also invented the eolipile, the world's first known steam engine. The device was deceptively simple: a hollow sphere mounted on an axle with two bent nozzles pointing in opposite directions. When water inside a connected cauldron was boiled, steam traveled up into the sphere and shot out of the nozzles, causing the ball to spin rapidly on its axis. It was a perfect demonstration of Newton's third law of motion, 16 centuries before Newton was born. Yet this incredible invention sparked no industrial revolution. In a world powered by abundant slave labor, there was no economic incentive to develop labor-saving machines. The eolipile was viewed not as a tool, but as a curiosity, a philosopher's toy, a marvel for demonstration rather than application. The potential to reshape civilization was there, spinning uselessly in a cloud of its own steam. From these documented flashes of premature genius, we turn to the silent stone enigmas that dot our ancient landscapes.
Stay with me, because what comes next has been hidden for a very long time, and only a few people know the truth behind it.
The dolmens. Who built these megalithic structures, and for what purpose, remains a profound mystery. Their intricate geometry and impossible construction fuel speculation that our distant ancestors possessed a technology far beyond what history concedes. Perhaps then, the greatest inventions are not those that succeed, but those that whisper across time, reminding us that the human mind has always been capable of conceiving the impossible. The gap is not in imagination, but in circumstance. The true measure of an idea is not whether it can be built, but whether its world is ready to receive it. Across the ancient world, a silent testament to human ingenuity and spiritual yearning stands etched in stone. By its most basic definition, a dolmen is a megalithic structure, an elemental form composed of at least 3 massive vertical supports crowned by one or more colossal capstones. The engineering is primal, the presence undeniable. But beyond the simple physics of their construction lies a profound and enduring question. What was their purpose? These enigmatic monuments are not confined to a single landscape. They punctuate the wind-swept coasts of Europe, the sun-scorched lands of North Africa, and the distant frontiers of Asia, a global network of silent stone sentinels. The prevailing consensus among experts points to a funereal purpose, that these were tombs, chambers built to house the dead for eternity. But this simple explanation begins to fracture when we look closer, for it quickly becomes clear that not all dolmens were created equal. Nowhere is this mystery more profound than in the rugged folds of the Caucasus Mountains. Here, scattered across a vast territory spanning some 12,000 square kilometers through southern Russia, Georgia, and Abkhazia, a unique tradition of megalithic architecture flourished. The Caucasian dolmens are a breed apart. They are not the crude elemental structures found elsewhere. Instead, they exhibit a level of stonework that seems to defy its era, with blocks cut and fitted with breath exposed, proud and solitary, their facades often sealed. And then there is the feature that has captivated and confounded all who see it: the single circular aperture drilled through the front stone slab. Most researchers refer to these as soul holes, a portal, it is said, between the world of the living and the realm of the dead. an opening through which the spirits of the departed could freely pass. It is a poetic and compelling theory, but it is a theory nonetheless. The stark archaeological reality is that we have no definitive proof that these chambers ever held human remains. While skeletal fragments have been discovered in the soil near the dolmens, the silence of the stones offers no easy answers. Skeptics are quick to point out that these could be later burials, interred centuries after the dolmens were abandoned, their original purpose already lost to time. What we do have are fragments of pottery unearthed from the surrounding earth. Analysis of these ceramic shards provides our only reliable timeline, placing the construction of these stone marvels somewhere between 4,000 and 6,000 years ago. Returning to the soul holes, the mystery only deepens. These gateways to the afterlife were not always circular. Some are perfectly square, and many were designed to be sealed, fitted with heavy custo. The very construction of the Caucasian dolmens pushes the boundaries of prehistoric technology. The builders were masters of geometry and form. Massive blocks intended as cornerstones were hewn with exacting 90-degree angles. In other places, stones were subtly curved, designed to join together to form a perfect circle. To this, we must add the astonishing fact that the surfaces were often ground and polished to a seamless, almost impossible smoothness. This is not mere building, this is architecture of the highest order, a unique and sophisticated expression of a forgotten science. Before these enigmatic facades, another layer of the story unfolds. A courtyard, often delineated by large stone walls, sometimes exceeding 1 meter in height, typically extends from the entrance. Experts believe these were sacred precincts, open-air temples where rituals and ceremonies were performed in the shadow of the great stone houses. And it is here, in the soil of these courtyards, that the past offers a few more clues. Pottery from the Bronze and Iron Ages, human remains, bronze tools, and even precious ornaments of gold and silver. These artifacts tell of a people with a rich material and spiritual culture, yet they fail to answer the central question. The dolmens themselves remain aloof, their purpose shrouded in the mists of millennia. They are more than ancient tombs. They are a challenge to our understanding of the past, proof of a lost technology and a forgotten worldview. They stand as a question carved in granite, a message from our distant ancestors that we no longer have the language to read. The stone whispers, but we have forgotten how to listen. Scattered across the foothills of the Western Caucasus, a silent testament to a forgotten age stands sentinel. An astonishing 3,000 of these megalithic monuments have been unearthed, a number that continues to climb with each passing year, hinting at a culture for whom these stone houses were of profound importance. Their prevalence, however, belies the sheer, almost insurmountable challenge of their creation. Each dolmen is a colossal undertaking, a composition of stone slabs weighing on average between 15 and 30 tons. To construct one was, to put it mildly, an extraordinary feat of engineering. Yet logic dictates that such monumental construction must leave a trail, a scar on the landscape where the stone was hewn. But here, in this sprawling region, a profound and unsettling silence hangs over the question of origin. There are no identifiable quarries. More perplexing still, the earth around the dolmens themselves offers no clues. Archaeologists have scoured the ground for the telltale grooves, the impressions left by wooden rollers, any evidence whatsoever of the immense struggle required to drag these monoliths into position. They have found nothing. And where the trail of evidence runs cold, the path of speculation forks into far more exotic territory. For some, The notion that sheer muscle and sinew could move multi-ton blocks from an unknown point of origin and then shape them with such uncanny precision is a narrative stretched too thin. They point to the impossibly smooth surfaces, the perfectly circular portals bored through solid rock, and ask, are these the marks of primitive tools, or the signature of a technology far beyond what we attribute to the people of the Bronze Age, some 4,000 to 6,000 years ago? This unorthodox interpretation gains its most compelling
Stay with me, because what comes next has been hidden for a very
traction when one examines the joinery. In the finest examples, the immense stone plates are not merely stacked, but interlocked with meticulously carved grooves. The fit is so precise, so flawlessly executed, that even after millennia of seismic shifts and weathering, it is often impossible to slide the blade of a knife or even a single sheet of paper into the seams. How was this level of accuracy achieved? In the year 2007, a team of researchers and...
Wait, this is not the full story. The most important part is just beginning, and it changes everything we thought we knew. This is where things get really interesting. What you're about to hear might explain why
accuracy achieved. In the year 2007, a team of researchers and engineers sought to answer this very question. In the Russian city of Gelendzhik, they embarked on an ambitious project to reconstruct a ruined dolmen using its original scattered stones. Even with the aid of modern lifting equipment and precise measuring tools, even with the ancient blueprint laid out before them, they could not replicate the seamless perfection of the original builders. Their creation was a close approximation, but it lacked the fundamental mastery of its prehistoric prototype. This leads to the ultimate enigma. Who were these master stonemasons? The celebrated archaeologist Vladimir Markovin, who dedicated his life to studying these structures, highlighted a stark and bewildering paradox. The archaeological record of the period reveals a people living in simple wattle and daub huts. Their days were spent tilling the earth with primitive hoes. They knew neither iron nor the potter's wheel. And yet, this very culture, by all accounts in its infancy, possessed the will and the unknown means to erect monuments that would humble the engineers of far later, more advanced civilizations. The dolmens of the Caucasus do not offer up their secrets easily. They stand as a profound contradiction, a puzzle etched in stone. They force us to confront the possibility that our linear conception of history, of primitive beginnings leading inexorably to modern complexity, may be flawed. These silent stone chambers are more than just tombs or temples. They are a quiet challenge to our own certainty, a permanent question mark on the landscape, reminding us that the past is not always as simple as we believe it to be. The established narrative is but one of several competing truths. Among the silent stones of the Caucasus, a profound debate rages, not in lecture halls, but in the very interpretation of the earth itself. While some experts anchor these dolmens to known cultures, others point to a disquieting anomaly. The artifacts discovered around them may be intrusive, placed there in a much later epoch. This single disruptive idea unmoors the structures from our timeline, suggesting an origin of staggering antiquity, perhaps as far back as 25,000 years. Yet this timeline presents a chasm in our understanding. The archaeological roots of the Cliniar and Koban cultures, the very peoples most often credited with these megalithic tombs, simply do not penetrate that deep into the strata of prehistory. They are ghosts who arrive too late for the funeral. With the bedrock of historical certainty eroded, the imagination floods the void, and alternative theories, once relegated to the fringe, now demand consideration. For those who navigate the world through the esoteric, these are not tombs at all. They are nodes of terrestrial power, built upon ley lines where the Earth's energy fields are said to coalesce with potent force. To these believers, the dolmens are more than stone. They are conduits. They are ominous fonts of power, rumored to be capable of mending catastrophic illness and awakening latent, dormant abilities within the human mind. Even in our modern age, pilgrims make the arduous journey to the Caucasian highlands not to honor the dead, but to commune with these unseen forces, seeking a connection to something ancient and alive. Inevitably, the conversation turns skyward. Proponents of the paleo-contact theory see a familiar signature in the stones. This para-scientific movement holds as its central tenet that humanity did not walk its early path alone. They believe that beings from beyond our world visited our ancestors, who, in their technological infancy, perceived them as miraculous gods. These celestial guests, in turn, shared their knowledge, guiding human hands in the construction of impossible monuments. The pyramids of Giza, the celestial calendar of Stonehenge, and, yes, the dolmens of the Caucasus. Yet another explanation, no less astonishing but born entirely of the earth, survives in local folklore. Ask the people whose families have lived in the shadow of these structures for generations, and they will not speak of archaeologists or aliens. They will tell you a story of giants and dwarves. In this telling, the region was once inhabited by a race of diminutive beings, so tiny they were said to ride upon the backs of hares. They lived alongside benevolent giants who, taking pity on their small neighbors, graciously constructed these immense stone dwellings for them. But the tale takes a dark and treacherous turn. The dwarves, rather than repaying this kindness, devised a cruel bargain. To absolve their debt, they blinded their giant builders and tricked them into drinking potions of mind-altering herbs. The great beings, lost in a fog of madness and darkness, turned on their tormentors, destroying the dwarves before, in their despair, turning upon themselves. All that remained were the empty houses, the silent stone dolmens we see today, a fabulous, if unsettling, explanation for their mysterious existence. The question of ancient engineering.
Welcome to my channel. If you're fascinated by hidden truths, lost civilizations, and unsolved mysteries, you're in the right place. Make sure to subscribe and leave a like so you don't miss what's coming next. Because what you're about to see will change everything.
However, is not confined to one mountain range. From the folklore of the Caucasus, we journey to the ruined heart of a fallen empire in southern India. Here, at Hampi, we find not a tomb, but a gateway, the great stone doors of the royal enclosure. These are not mere monuments, they are functional marvels, an astonishing feat of engineering. They were once the imposing entrances to a royal complex that spanned 59,000 square meters. Crafted nearly 1,000 years ago, each monolithic gate weighs several tons. They were moved and fitted not with modern cranes, but with a profound understanding of leverage, manpower, and mechanics. The giants were moved by purely mechanical means, their locking and pivot mechanisms a sophisticated assembly of metal and wood, a forgotten science of physics that allowed them to swing with an impossible grace. From the enigmatic tombs of the Caucasus to the colossal gateways of Hampi, these structures stand as a challenge to our perception of the past. They are the physical embodiment of a question we cannot definitively answer. Whether we fill the silence with tales of mystical energies, cosmic visitors, or a dark folklore of giants and dwarves, the stones themselves remain impassive. They are a testament not to what we know, but to the profound and humbling depths of what we have forgotten. In the dust of southern India, among the sprawling ruins of the Vijayanagara Empire, lie the silent remnants of a technological marvel. The city of Hampi, once a diamond in the crown of a prosperous kingdom, was fortified by a double wall, a formidable defense pierced by 3 grand entrances. 2 of these gates faced north. A third, and perhaps the most significant, stood to the west. It is here, toppled and inert, that we find the remains of a colossal stone door. Today, tourists and historians admire these monolithic slabs as impressive relics of a glorious past. But their true wonder lies not in their size, but in their lost function. The precision and ingenuity required to operate these gates remain a profound mystery. They were not merely barriers, but complex machines of stone and leverage. The technology that once swung these multi-ton behemoths open with grace and precision has vanished completely from the annals of history. No modern engineer, looking upon the fallen stones, can definitively say how to restore them to their former glory. They are a testament to a unique and forgotten branch of mechanical science. This thread of lost knowledge leads us across the sea, into the sands of Yemen. Here, in the 1950s, archaeologists excavating near the modern city of Marib uncovered an enigmatic structure. Known today as the Baran Temple, or the Throne of Bilqis, this pre-Islamic sanctuary belonged to the ancient kingdom of Saba, the biblical Sheba. It was a place dedicated to the moon god Al-Maka. Beyond its courtyards and modest buildings, researchers unearthed a discovery that challenged their understanding of ancient capabilities. 5 flawlessly crafted stelae, pillars of stone whose geometric perfection was considered unique on the Arabian Peninsula. Then, in 1988, a 6th stele, equally immaculate, was found. But their purpose transcended mere decoration. Evidence suggests their precise arrangement served as an early, sophisticated form of information documentation. It was a library of stone, a system for recording knowledge in 3 dimensions. Yet, how this technology worked, how the data was encoded, and how it was read, remains entirely unknown. It is a form of data storage that predates our own by millennia, its operating manual lost to the shifting desert sands. From the sands of Arabia, we journey to an even older landscape of mystery, the Giza Plateau. For thousands of years before the birth of Christ, the ancient Egyptians erected structures that continue to defy easy explanation. The marvel is not just the scale of the pyramids, but the microscopic precision with which they were built. The master builders of that era could quarry and shape geometric, multi-ton blocks of stone with edges so perfectly straight and surfaces so impossibly flat that a modern stonemason might weep with envy. And they achieved this, we are told, with the simplest of tools, copper chisels and stone hammers. In countless places on the Great Pyramid, these blocks are fitted together with such accuracy that not even a single sheet of paper can slide between them. The official narrative suggests that stones weighing several tons were dragged by human power up simple wooden ramps and then maneuvered flawlessly into place. Yet this narrative ignores a staggering logistical reality. The process appears to have been executed without a single catastrophic error. Had a stone block fallen from the upper levels, it would have shattered the courses below, a mistake that would have been almost impossible to repair without dismantling a significant portion of the structure. But no such repaired damage has ever been found. The construction appears to be perfect, a zero-failure operation on a scale that would challenge even modern project management. This absolute flawlessness hints at an unknown methodology, a lost science of construction that allowed for the perfect and effortless placement of monumental weight. This pattern of technologies whose sophistication defies their supposed origins is not limited to colossal structures. Consider the simple, elegant device known as the Archimedes screw. Its name is a misnomer. The invention was not the product of Archimedes, the celebrated Greek mathematician. The technology is far, far older than its namesake. When Archimedes traveled to Egypt around the year 234 BC, he did not invent the screw, he observed it. He witnessed a technology that had been in use for centuries, a brilliant solution for lifting water against the pull of gravity, and he brought the knowledge of it back to Greece. These fragments of the past, the gates of Hampi, the stelae of Saba, the stonework of Giza, the screw of the Nile, are more than just historical curiosities. They are silent monuments, not merely to what our ancestors built, but to what they knew. They are the echoes of a forgotten science, a humbling reminder that the path of progress is not always a straight line. It is a winding road, with peaks of extraordinary knowledge that can, and often do, crumble into valleys of obscurity, leaving future generations to gaze upon the ruins and wonder. In the ancient world, ingenuity took forms that continue to astound. The screw, a simple, elegant helix, could draw the lifeblood of the Nile upwards, defying gravity to irrigate the high, arid slopes of Egypt. It was a revolution in a spiral. Some historians even whisper that this very principle, this mechanical miracle, may have been the secret technology that powered the legendary Hanging Gardens of Babylon, lifting water to create a mountain of green in the heart of the desert. But where the line blurs between verifiable genius and modern myth, the artifacts become even more unsettling. In the digital age, a story emerged from Russia, centered on a purported collector named Yevgeny Andreyanov. His collection, it was said, held objects that defied easy explanation. The most prominent were a stone disc, flawlessly sculpted into the iconic shape of a flying saucer, and a smaller stone tablet depicting a humanoid figure gazing up as a similar craft hovers in the sky. The origin of these pieces remains a complete mystery. Their alleged owner offered no provenance, no context. Were they part of some forgotten esoteric technology, or merely elaborate modern forgeries? The debate rages in obscurity, fueled by the fact that the images appeared suddenly in the online ether, their sources untraceable. The very existence of Yevgeny Andreyanov himself has never been conclusively proven, leaving the artifacts as digital ghosts in a machine of speculation. While some mysteries vanish into the digital ether, others stand immovable, etched into the very landscape, posing questions in stone and silence. Deep in the remote Tuva region of Russia, surrounded by the vastness of the Siberian wilderness, lies the Por-Bajin complex. Its name translates to clay house, a humble title for such an imposing enigma. Laid out on a river island, the structure is a perfect, rigid square, its walls dating back to the 9th century. Initial theories cast it as a grand palace or a formidable fortress. Yet, as archaeologists meticulously combed the site, they found a profound and eerie emptiness. There were no traces of sustained human activity, no pottery shards, no discarded tools, no ancient hearths. The complex appeared to have been built at monumental effort and then, perhaps, never truly lived in. Was it a silent, uninhabited temple complex, a monument to a forgotten faith? Or was it something else entirely? The foundation for a technology whose purpose and practitioners have been utterly lost to time. This sense of monumental construction for an unknowable purpose is not unique to the Siberian wilderness. Half a world away, in the ancient village of Asuka, Japan, artisans of the Kofun period, between the years 250 and 552, carved megaliths that confound logic. The centerpiece is a creation known as the Masuda no Iwafune, the rock ship of Masuda. It is a colossal enigma, hewn from a single piece of granite, measuring 11 meters in length 8 meters in width and nearly 5 meters in height. It weighs an estimated 800 tons. The sheer mass makes one thing certain: this object was never intended for travel. Its purpose was fixed, static. Nearby, another monolith, the Ishnohoden, is revered as a shrine, a floating rock delivered from the heavens. The geometric precision of these objects, their clean lines and deliberate shapes, leads researchers away from simple ritual and towards a more mechanical interpretation. If these colossal stones hint at a lost mechanical science, another, far more delicate object suggests a forgotten understanding of forces we once considered entirely modern. For centuries, the invention of the electric battery was credited to Alessandro Volta in the year 1800. Then,
This is where things get really interesting. What you're about to hear might explain why this was never meant to be discovered.
1936, during an excavation near Baghdad, in what is now Iraq, workers unearthed an object that challenged the timeline of invention. It was a simple 14-centimeter clay jar. Inside, a copper cylinder was sealed with asphalt, and suspended within that cylinder was an iron rod, held in place but not touching the copper. It was, in its construction, a rudimentary galvanic cell. Fill it with an acidic liquid, vinegar or grape juice, and it produces a small but steady electric current. This was the Baghdad battery, a potential source of electricity created 2,000 years before Volta. Its purpose remains debated. Was it for electroplating jewelry with gold, for ritualistic healing, or for a kind of religious theatre to inspire awe in the uninitiated? Each of these discoveries is a fracture in the smooth narrative of history. They are the quiet insistence that our past is not a simple linear progression from primitive to advanced. They suggest that knowledge can be gained and then catastrophically lost, leaving behind only cryptic clues and technological ghosts. They are the quiet insistence that the story of human ingenuity may have chapters we are yet to rediscover. Sealed within an unassuming clay jar, a copper cylinder was found encasing an iron rod. For many years after its discovery in the sands near ancient Baghdad, the artifact remained a simple curiosity. But as scientific understanding grew, a startling hypothesis emerged. This strange object, with its deliberate arrangement of metals, was not a vessel for sacred scrolls, but a machine for generating power. Painstaking experiments proved the theory. When linked together, several of these strange cells, connected by a 1-centimeter protrusion, could produce a steady voltage of nearly 2 volts. The fuel for this ancient power was elegantly simple: Ent. An alternative theory suggests a more refined purpose: the art of electroplating, using electricity to coat one metal with another. Yet this technique, a sophisticated method for increasing the corrosive resistance of metals, was believed to have been invented in the 18th century. The jar from Baghdad whispers of a different timeline, a faint electric hum across the millennia. This echo of lost knowledge resonates again in the 16th century, in the royal court of Spain. Here we find not a simple jar, but a marvel of intricate mechanics, the automaton monk, constructed by the brilliant watchmaker Juanelo Turiano, the king who had vowed to produce a miracle of his own if his ailing son were to be saved. The clockwork monk is an astonishing creation. On its own, it glides across a flat surface, a silent, mechanical procession. It raises a cross and rosary to its lips, brings a hand to its chest in a gesture of penance, and moves its head from side to side. Intricate machine, born of faith and mechanical genius, still functions perfectly today, is a testament to a forgotten mastery. It can be seen, a silent sentinel of a bygone age, in a museum that guards its secrets. But human ingenuity has always served two masters: creation and destruction. While one artisan crafted a mechanical prayer, others were perfecting an engine of terrifying chaos. The hand grenade is not an invention of the modern age. Its brutal lineage can be traced back to the 6th century before the Common Era, when Byzantine Greeks unleashed the legendary fury of Greek fire. The artifacts that have survived, however, are younger, dating to the 14th century. These were not precision-milled steel, but hollowed spheres of stone. They were filled with highly flammable liquids, perhaps a crude alcohol or pitch. Once the fuse was lit, a soldier would hurl the device into the enemy ranks, or, more terrifyingly, over the walls of a town. In an era of wood, thatch, and straw, the effect was cataclysmic. A volley of these grenades could engulf entire city blocks in an unstoppable inferno. It is even believed that armies would first douse an area near enemy lines with oil or resin, then use the exploding projectiles as igniters, turning the very ground into a sea of fire. From the tools of war, we turn to the charts of exploration. In the year 1513, the renowned Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis compiled one of the most enigmatic maps in human history. Drawn on gazelle skin, it depicts the world as it was then known, a tapestry of coastlines, charted during the admiral's own voyages. Today, this unique artifact rests in the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul, a protected treasure of world heritage. But its true mystery lies not in what it shows, but in what it should not be able to show. The map traces a route from Europe across the Atlantic to South America, and then further south. There, at the bottom of the world, Piri Reis charted the coastline of Antarctica. This is a continent that was supposedly not discovered until the 19th century, 300 years after the map was made. More baffling still, the map depicts this landmass not as it is today, buried under miles of ice, but as a continent of rock and earth. It presents a cartographic impossibility, a ghostly coastline from a time before the ice. It forces us to question the very history we have written, to wonder what ancient sources, what lost voyages guided the admiral's hand. It suggests that the world we think we discovered was merely being rediscovered, its secrets waiting on the fragile pages of a forgotten map. Upon a precarious, otherworldly spire of rock, rising from the mists near the Chinese city of Ten.
Most people stop watching right here. But if you continue, you'll discover something almost no one knows.
T stands a temple. It appears to float, an architectural impossibility suspended between earth and sky. Yet a closer inspection reveals a deeper enigma. This is not just one temple, but a twin, perched atop a twin peak. The entire formation mirrors another sacred site, the twin temples on the summit of Mount Fanjingshan, also in China. Both are marvels of vernaculate. Perhaps vast, intricate forests of bamboo were lashed to the sheer cliffs, creating a delicate scaffold for the builders. Or perhaps each stone, each timber, was hoisted into the heavens on a complex system of rope and pulley, the result of an almost unimaginable expenditure of human effort. We struggle today to truly comprehend the sheer scale of such an undertaking, executed hundreds, perhaps thousands of years ago. We can only gaze in wonder, asking what lost knowledge, what forgotten ingenuity allowed these sanctuaries the technological prowess of past civilizations. It is entirely possible a profound and mysterious understanding of engineering that we have yet to rediscover. Our journey continues south to the sun-scorched plains of Karnataka, in the ruined heart of the mighty Vijayanagar Empire. Here, amidst the sprawling historical complex of Hampi, lie the silent giants, monolithic stone doors. Once, they formed one of the grand entrances to the royal enclosure, a testament to an empire's power and an astonishing feat of engineering. One can only wonder how, nearly 1,000 years ago, these massive gates were hewn, transported, and installed with such precision. Each door weighs many tons apiece, colossal slabs of granite that were moved and operated by purely mechanical means. Their intricate locking and pivot mechanisms, a sophisticated assembly of metal and wood, allowed these behemoths to swing with an engineered grace. The palace complex itself was a fortress, a sprawling area of nearly 60,000 square meters, protected by a formidable double wall. It possessed 3 entrances, 2 to the north and 1 to the west. It is believed these fallen gates once guarded the western approach. Today, they lie prone upon the earth, admired by travelers as magnificent relics of a glorious past. But they are more than just ruins. They are a challenge. It is doubtful that anyone today, even with modern equipment, could easily restore these gates to their former function. The specific technologies, the unique mastery of leverage and balance that made them work, remain an enigma, a lost art of a vanished kingdom. From the ruins of an empire, we travel to the sands of Yemen, where in the 1950s an anomalous temple was unearthed from its long slumber. Known today as the Temple of Baran, or more poetically as the Throne of Bilqis, it is a relic of the ancient Sabaean kingdom. Located near the modern city of Marib, this sanctuary was dedicated to Al-Maka, a principal deity of the pre-Islamic era. Amidst the foundations of smaller buildings and a vast courtyard, archaeologists discovered 5 monolithic stelae, carved with a geometric perfection that seemed utterly alien to the rugged landscape. The precision of their construction was considered unique on the entire Arabian Peninsula. Then, in 1988, a 6th, equally perfect stele was found. With this discovery, a new theory emerged. Researchers found compelling evidence that the precise placement of these stones was no accident. They were not merely decorative or devotional. Their arrangement suggests they served as a sophisticated astronomical device, an early form of a celestial clock, charting the movements of the sun and stars. From a temple that defies gravity, to doors that defy comprehension, to stones that chart the cosmos. These are not simply artifacts of history, they are the whispers of a forgotten science, a silent challenge to the arrogance of the present, questioning whether our own age truly stands at the pinnacle of human achievement, or if we are merely walking in the shadow of giants. In the silent deserts of Egypt, under the unblinking eye of the sun, stand monuments of such scale and precision that they challenge our very understanding of the past. For millennia before the birth of Christ, the master builders of the Nile erected structures that remain to this day
Welcome to my channel. If you're fascinated by hidden truths,
singular achievements in human history. Yet the astonishment lies not merely in the towering edifices themselves, but far more profoundly in the methods by which they were raised from the dust. The artisans of that forgotten age possessed an almost supernatural mastery over stone. They could quarry and shape geometric blocks of limestone and granite with a perfection that defies belief. Their edges are so true, so flawlessly aligned, they would humble a modern stonemason armed with laser guides and diamond-tipped saws. And yet, the historical record insists these people wielded only the most rudimentary of instruments, copper chisels that would blunt against hard granite, dolerite pounders, and simple wooden mallets. In countless places across the Giza Plateau, these megalithic blocks, each weighing several tons, are set so closely together that not even a sheet of paper nor a razor's edge can be slipped between them. The accepted narrative tells of legions of laborers hauling these colossal weights up simple wooden ramps with ropes of papyrus fiber before maneuvering them into their final, perfect resting place. But an even deeper mystery persists. In a construction project of this magnitude, spanning decades and involving millions of tons of stone, accidents would have been inevitable. A single block, weighing as much as a mature elephant, slipping from the upper tiers would not just fall, it would cascade, shattering the meticulously placed stones below. To replace such damage would require dismantling a significant portion of the pyramid, a task of almost unimaginable difficulty. And yet, the evidence of such catastrophic errors is nowhere to be found. It is as if they never occurred. This flawless execution has led many to wonder if a forgotten technology was at play, an unknown science that allowed for the perfect and unerring placement of every single stone. The legacy of Egypt's lost knowledge may not be confined to its monumental architecture. Centuries later, in ancient Greece, the brilliant mathematician and inventor Archimedes of Syracuse would be credited with a revolutionary device. But the Archimedes screw, contrary to its name, was not his invention. The technology was far older than its namesake. During a journey through Egypt, around 234 years before the Common Era, Archimedes observed this helical marvel in action. It was a simple yet ingenious machine, capable of defying gravity, lifting water from the lifeblood of the Nile to irrigate lands perched on high embankments. He recognized its genius and introduced the concept to the Hellenic world. But its origins lay further back, in the mists of pharaonic ingenuity. Some scholars even speculate that this very ancient world, the legendary Hanging Gardens of Babylon, solving the immense logistical puzzle of how they were watered. The search for lost knowledge does not always lead to sun-scorched deserts and ancient texts. Sometimes it emerges from the shadows of the digital age, shrouded in ambiguity. Consider the strange artifacts attributed to a Russian collector, a man known only as Yevgeny Andreanov. Within his purported collection are objects that seem to defy conventional history. Among the most remarkable is a stone sculpture bearing an uncanny resemblance to a classic flying saucer, and a smaller, handheld stone etched with the image of a disc-shaped object hovering ominously above a landscape. The questions they provoke are immediate and profound. Where were they found? Who carved them? And were they part of some forgotten ritual or evidence of a technology far beyond our comprehension? The owner, as the story goes, does not know. This vacuum of information has, rightly, invited skepticism. Critics point out that images of these objects appeared suddenly on the internet, their origins untraceable. Indeed, the very existence of a collector named Yevgeny Andreanov has to this day never been definitively proven. From the undeniable granite of the pyramids to the questionable pixels of a modern photograph, the narrative remains the same. We are surrounded by echoes of forgotten genius, by whispers of capabilities that have vanished from our world. Perhaps the greatest monuments are not just structures of stone, but testaments to the fragility of knowledge itself. A constant, humbling reminder not of what we know, but of how much we may have yet to relearn. On a remote island in the middle of a Siberian lake lies a ruin whose name translates to the Clay House, or perhaps more poetically, the House of Dreams. The entire complex, known as Por Bajin, is a hauntingly precise rectangle, a vast architectural ghost laid out on the water. It is believed to have been founded in the 9th century of our era, a time of nomads and nascent empires. Initial theories painted a familiar picture. Researchers saw the grand design and assumed it was a palace for a ruler, or a formidable fortress to command the lonely landscape. But as archaeologists combed through its silent courtyards and crumbling walls, they found nothing. No shards of pottery, no discarded tools, no ash from ancient hearths. There were no traces of sustained human activity, neither within the complex nor on the surrounding shores. The great structure stood as if it had never been lived in. This profound emptiness has given rise to speculation. Was it an uninhabited temple, a place of ritual so sacred that life was forbidden within its walls? Or does its perfect geometry and barren history point to a purpose, even a technology, that our modern minds have yet to comprehend? From the silent plains of Siberia, we travel to the green hills of southern Japan. Here, near the village of Asuka, artisans of the Kofun period, between the years 250 and 552, carved colossal sculptures from solid granite. These are not mere statues, but megaliths of such scale and precision that they seem to defy their own creation. The most baffling of these is the Masuda no Iwafune, the rock ship of Masuda. This singular object, 11 meters in length, 8 meters in width, and nearly 5 meters high, is a monolith weighing an estimated 800 tons. It could not have been moved. It was certainly never intended for travel. Its purpose is a complete enigma. Nearby, another unique stone monument, the Ishi no Hoden, reinforces the mystery. Local lore reveres it as a floating rock that fell from the sky, now a sacred shrine. While these monoliths were undoubtedly shaped by human hands through years of painstaking labor, their stark geometric forms lead investigators to a persistent question. Do these carvings represent something more than art or ritual? Are they silent components of a long-lost technology, a system whose function we can no longer even guess at? For centuries, electricity was considered an invention of the modern age, a force harnessed by the minds of the Enlightenment and the Industrial Revolution. But an archaeological discovery in the dust of ancient Mesopotamia calls that entire timeline into question. During excavations near the city of Kujud Rabu, in what is now modern Iraq, a peculiar object was unearthed. It was a simple 14-centimeter clay vessel. Sealed inside was a copper cylinder, and within that, a corroded iron rod. For many years after its discovery, the artifact sat as a curiosity. Then, scientists proposed a startling theory. This humble object could have functioned as a galvanic cell, a battery. By filling the jar with a 2 volts, the purpose remains debated. Perhaps it was used for electroplating, gilding cheaper metals with a thin layer of gold or silver, a technique supposedly not invented until the 18th century. Or perhaps its use was medicinal, providing a mild, tingling shock for therapeutic purposes. Whatever its function, the Baghdad battery stands as a profound anachronism, a flicker of electrical knowledge from 2,000 years ago. Our final artifact is not ancient, but it is no less astonishing. In the 16th century, a Spanish clockmaker named Juanelo Turiano constructed a truly miraculous figure, the mechanical monk. Commissioned by the Spanish king as a tribute to the saint Diego de Alcalá, this automaton is a masterpiece of early robotics. Wound by a key, the monk glides across the floor. It raises a cross to its lips, nods its head, and moves its arms in a gesture of prayer. Its inner workings, a complex system of iron cams and levers, represent a staggering leap in mechanical understanding. More than 400 years after its creation, the figure remains in perfect working order, a testament to a forgotten level of genius. From an empty fortress to a stone ship, from a simple battery to a clockwork saint, These objects are more than mere curiosities. They are fractures in the smooth narrative of history. They suggest that knowledge is not always a linear progression, that brilliant ideas can surface, flourish, and then vanish, leaving behind only enigmatic clues. They are the ghosts in our machine of history, silent reminders that the past is not merely a prologue, but a landscape of forgotten futures. The instruments of war often feel intimately modern, a product of our own turbulent age. The hand grenade, an icon of 20th century conflict, seems to be one such invention. But this is an illusion. The concept's lineage stretches back not for centuries, but for millennia. As early as the 6th century before the Common Era, Byzantine forces deployed a terrifying incendiary weapon known as Greek fire, a substance that could burn even on water. The artifact before us, however, is a more tangible horror. A hollowed stone vessel from the 14th century, it is a direct ancestor of the modern grenade. Its purpose was not complex fragmentation, but pure elemental terror. Filled with a potent, flammable mixture.
And now comes the part no one talks about. But this is where the real mystery begins. Stay with me, because what comes next has been hidden for a very long time, and only a few people know the truth behind it.
Millions of tons of stone, accidents would have been inevitable. A single block, weighing as much as a mature elephant, slipping from the upper tiers, would not just fall, it would cascade, shattering the meticulously placed stones below. To replace such damage would require dismantling a significant portion of the pyramid, a task of almost unimaginable difficulty. And yet, the evidence of such catastrophic errors is nowhere to be found. It is as if they never occurred. This flawless execution has led many to wonder if a forgotten technology was at play, an unknown science that allowed for the perfect and unerring placement of every single stone. The legacy of Egypt's lost knowledge may not be confined to its monumental architecture. Centuries later, in ancient Greece, the brilliant mathematician and inventor Archimedes of Syracuse would be credited with a revolutionary device. But the Archimedes screw, contrary to its name, was not his invention. The technology was far older than its namesake. During a journey through Egypt, around 234 years before the Common Era, Archimedes observed this helical marvel in action. It was a simple yet ingenious machine, capable of defying gravity, lifting water from the lifeblood of the Nile to irrigate lands perched on high embankments. He recognized its genius and introduced the concept to the Hellenic world. But its origins lay further back, in the mists of pharaonic ingenuity. Some scholars even speculate that this very ancient world, the legendary Hanging Gardens of Babylon, solving the immense logistical puzzle of how they were watered. The search for lost knowledge does not always lead to sun-scorched deserts and ancient texts. Sometimes it emerges from the shadows of the digital age, shrouded in ambiguity. Consider the strange artifacts attributed to a Russian collector, a man known only as Yevgeny Andreanov. Within his purported collection are objects that seem to defy conventional history. Among the most remarkable is a stone sculpture bearing an uncanny resemblance to a classic flying saucer, and a smaller, handheld stone etched with the image of a disc-shaped object hovering ominously above a landscape. The questions they provoke are immediate and profound. Where were they found? Who carved them? And were they part of some forgotten ritual or evidence of a technology far beyond our comprehension? The owner, as the story goes, does not know. This vacuum of information has, rightly, invited skepticism. Critics point out that images of these objects appeared suddenly on the internet, their origins untraceable. Indeed, the very existence of a collector named Yevgeny Andreanov has to this day never been definitively proven. From the undeniable granite of the pyramids to the questionable pixels of a modern photograph, the narrative remains the same. We are surrounded by echoes of forgotten genius, by whispers of capabilities that have vanished from our world. Perhaps the greatest monuments are not just structures of stone, but testaments to the fragility of knowledge itself. A constant, humbling reminder not of what we know, but of how much we may have yet to relearn. On a remote island in the middle of a Siberian lake lies a ruin whose name translates to the Clay House, or perhaps more poetically, the House of Dreams. The entire complex, known as Por Bajin, is a hauntingly precise rectangle, a vast architectural ghost laid out on the water. It is believed to have been founded in the 9th century of our era, a time of nomads and nascent empires. Initial theories painted a familiar picture. Researchers saw the grand design and assumed it was a palace for a ruler or a formidable fortress to command the lonely landscape. But as archaeologists combed through its silent courtyards and crumbling walls, they found nothing. No shards of pottery, no discarded tools, no ash from ancient hearths. There were no traces of sustained human activity, neither within the complex nor on the surrounding shores. The great structure stood as if it had never been lived in. This profound emptiness has given rise to speculation. Was it an uninhabited temple, a place of ritual so sacred that life was forbidden within its walls? Or does its perfect geometry and barren history point to a purpose, even a technology, that our modern minds have yet to comprehend? From the silent plains of Siberia, we travel to the green hills of southern Japan. Here, near the village of Asuka, artisans of the Kofun period, between the years 250 and 552, carved colossal sculptures from solid granite. These are not mere statues, but megaliths of such scale and precision that they seem to defy their own creation. The most baffling of these is the Masuda no Iwafune, the rock ship of Masuda. This singular object, 11 meters in length, 8 meters in width, and nearly 5 meters high, is a monolith weighing an estimated 800 tons. It could not have been moved. It was certainly never intended for travel. Its purpose is a complete enigma. Nearby, another unique stone monument, the Ishi no Hoden, reinforces the mystery. Local lore reveres it as a floating rock that fell from the sky, now a sacred shrine. While these monoliths were undoubtedly shaped by human hands through years of painstaking labor, their stark geometric forms lead investigators to a persistent question. Do these carvings represent something more than art or ritual? Are they silent components of a long-lost technology, a system whose function we can no longer even guess at? For centuries, electricity was considered an invention of the modern age, a force harnessed by the minds of the Enlightenment and the Industrial Revolution. But an archaeological discovery in the dust of ancient Mesopotamia calls that entire timeline into question. During excavations near the city of Kujud Rabu, in what is now modern Iraq, a peculiar object was unearthed. It was a simple 14-centimeter clay vessel. Sealed inside was a copper cylinder, and within that, a corroded iron rod. For many years after its discovery, the artifact sat as a curiosity. Then, scientists proposed a startling theory. This humble object could have functioned as a galvanic cell, a battery. By filling the jar with a 2 volts, the purpose remains debated. Perhaps it was used for electroplating, gilding cheaper metals with a thin layer of gold or silver, a technique supposedly not invented until the 18th century. Or perhaps its use was medicinal, providing a mild, tingling shock for therapeutic purposes. Whatever its function, the Baghdad battery stands as a profound anachronism, a flicker of electrical knowledge from 2,000 years ago. Our final artifact is not ancient, but it is no less astonishing. In the 16th century, a Spanish clockmaker named Juanelo Turiano constructed a truly miraculous figure, the mechanical monk. Commissioned by the Spanish king as a tribute to the saint Diego de Alcalá, this automaton is a masterpiece of early robotics. Wound by a key, the monk glides across the floor. It raises a cross to its lips, nods its head, and moves its arms in a gesture of prayer. Its inner workings, a complex system of iron cams and levers, represent a staggering leap in mechanical understanding. More than 400 years after its creation, the figure remains in perfect working order, a testament to a forgotten level of genius. From an empty fortress to a stone ship, from a simple battery to a clockwork saint, these objects are more than mere curiosities. They are fractures in the smooth narrative of history. They suggest that knowledge is not always a linear progression, that brilliant ideas can surface, flourish, and then vanish, leaving behind only enigmatic clues. They are the ghosts in our machine of history, silent reminders that the past is not merely a prologue, but a landscape of forgotten futures. The instruments of war often feel intimately modern, a product of our own turbulent age. The hand grenade, an icon of 20th century conflict, seems to be one such invention. But this is an illusion. The concept's lineage stretches back not for centuries, but for millennia. As early as the 6th century before the Common Era, Byzantine forces deployed a terrifying incendiary weapon known as Greek fire, a substance that could burn even on water. The artifact before us, however, is a more tangible horror. A hollowed stone vessel from the 14th century, it is a direct ancestor of the modern grenade. Its purpose was not complex fragmentation, but pure elemental terror. Filled with a potent, flammable mixture, these devices were hurled into civilian centers. In an era where cities were built of wood, thatch, and other combustible materials, the effect was devastating. A volley of such grenades could ignite vast territories in moments, Mensteer transforming a single spark into an inescapable inferno. Yet the genius of the ancients was not solely dedicated to destruction. It was also an engine of discovery. The Piri-Reis map, meticulously drafted around the year 1513 by an Ottoman admiral, is one of humanity's most enigmatic charts. It depicts the world as it was understood then, the coasts of Europe, Africa, and a newly encountered Americas. But it is what lies at the very edge of the parchment that continues to fuel debate. A landmass, eerily resembling the coastline of Antarctica, is shown, centuries before the continent's official discovery in the 19th century. More unsettling still, the map appears to depict this frozen wasteland free of its immense ice cap. If a single document can challenge our timeline of exploration, what then of structures that defy our grasp of engineering itself? In the mists of China, temples cling to impossible precipices. From a distance, they seem to float, anchored to sheer rock by little more than faith. The twin temples of Fanjingshan and the legendary Hanging Monastery are marvels of ancient architecture. Built over 1,000 years ago, they present a profound mystery to modern builders. How were massive stone blocks hoisted to these heights? Scholars propose vast bamboo scaffolds or intricate rope and pulley systems, feats of labor so painstaking they border on the unbelievable. These artifacts, the incendiary vessel, the prescient map, the gravity-defying temple, are not merely relics. They are echoes of lost knowledge, whispers from civilizations that mastered their world in ways we may never fully comprehend. They force us to confront a humbling possibility that the path of human progress is not a straight, unbroken line, but a landscape of forgotten peaks and valleys with summits of ingenuity we have yet to rediscover.
This is where things get really interesting. What you're about to hear might explain why this was never meant to be discovered.